The lie every married man tells to live two lives, Carl Jung. Have you ever noticed how some men can look you in the eye and swear eternal love while keeping an entire parallel life hidden? I'm not talking about occasional lies or small omissions. I'm talking about a psychological architecture so complex that it allows a married man to construct two completely separate realities and make both seem absolutely true. There is a specific lie, an apparently innocent phrase, which works as the master key of this double life. When you hear these words, it may seem romantic, it may seem vulnerable, even brave. But what is really happening is something much deeper and more disturbing. The activation of a psychological mechanism that makes you complicit in the illusion itself. In this video, I'm going to reveal what that lie is, why it works so perfectly, and most importantly, what's going on in your own psyche that makes you believe it even when all the evidence says otherwise. Get ready. Because once you understand this, you will never hear certain words the same way again. 1. The phrase that opens the doors of illusion. My marriage ended a long time ago. I'm just there out of obligation. This is the magic sentence, the primordial lie that transforms everything. When these words come out of his mouth, something changes in the air. Suddenly, you are no longer the other. You are the real one, the chosen one, the one who really matters. His marriage becomes just a piece of paper, a lifeless formality, while what you have gains the status of authentic. But look at the genius of this construction. He's not technically lying about feelings. It may even be true that he no longer feels passion for his wife. The trick lies in what he omits. He doesn't tell you that he still shares a bed, that he makes family vacation plans, that he keeps all the emotional and practical structure of that relationship working perfectly. The lie is not in what he says he feels. It is in what he hides about what he does. This phrase works because it activates something primordial in the human psyche, the need to be special, to be the exception. You come to believe that you have achieved something that your wife has not, access to his true self. While she stays with the tired, thank you, trapped man, you receive the free, passionate, authentic man. It's a powerful narrative because it feeds the ego and morally justifies the whole situation. What makes this even more effective is that he believes in his own story as he tells it. At that moment, with you, he really feels different. It is not a conscious performance. He has fragmented existence itself in such a way that each version of him feels genuine in its context. With you, he is the imprisoned man seeking freedom. At home, he is the responsible husband fulfilling his duties. Both identities coexist without ever confronting each other. And you, by accepting this narrative, enter into a silent pact. He agrees not to question too much, not to demand concrete proof that the marriage really ended. Because deep down, questioning means risking losing the fantasy of being the special person. And this fantasy quickly becomes more important than the truth. 2. The theater of the two masks. The double life is not maintained by isolated lies, but by a complete psychological structure. He doesn't wake up in the morning thinking about how he's going to fool two women. In fact, he created two parallel worlds so far apart that they don't even need conscious boundaries. Each environment activates a different version of it, and these versions rarely find themselves in one's own mind. Think of it as completely sealed compartments. When she is at home, that physical space, those objects, that routine, everything automatically activates the husband's persona. He's not pretending to be married, he's married in that context. Gestures are automatic, conversations follow established patterns, life simply flows without conscious effort. There is no internal conflict because that identity belongs to that place. With you, another space activates another persona. The lover, the free man, the one who can dream and feel intensely. This is not a fake character, it is another real facet of him that only emerges in this specific context. That's why he seems so genuine, so present. He is being authentic within that specific reality that you have built together. The psychological trick here is that he never allows these worlds to touch. Conversations with you happen at specific times. The meetings have determined locations. There are topics that are never mentioned, questions that are never asked. This whole invisible structure keeps the compartments separate, preventing contradictions from becoming evident. When you ask about the practical details of the separation he promised, he deflects. Not in a crude way, but with emotional skill. It creates an urgency in the present moment, intensifies the connection between you, makes you feel that questioning is distrusting love. And it works because you also need the compartments to remain separate. Seeing the full reality would destroy the illusion that sustains your relationship. This division becomes so natural that he no longer even notices the effort. It became a reflex, automatic like breathing. And the more time passes, the more solid the walls between these worlds become, the more difficult it becomes for him to see the contradiction of what he is doing. If you want to understand the real lie every married man tells to live two lives, and why women almost never see it happening, watch the JUNG method. The link is pinned in the first comment. 3. Because you believe even though you know the truth. There's something even more intriguing about this dynamic. A part of you has always known. From the beginning, signs appeared. The way he controlled when he could speak, the always busy weekends, the absence on important dates. You realized all this, but you chose an explanation that would make it bearable to continue, because abandoning would mean admitting that you have invested time and feeling in an illusion. The human mind has an impressive ability to sustain two contradictory truths at the same time. You know he's still really married, but you believe the marriage is over emotionally. You see that he does not take concrete steps to separate, but accepts that there are legitimate impediments. These two perceptions coexist without cancelling each other out, because you need both. Reality, so you don't feel naive, and fantasy, so you don't feel used. This belief works as an emotional anesthetic. If you allowed yourself to see the situation completely, the pain would be unbearable. You would have to recognize that you are in a secondary role, that promises may never be fulfilled, that you have given your effective availability to someone who keeps the main life intact. Then the mind creates a more palatable version of the story, where you're still special, you still have value, there's still hope. Another powerful factor is progressive emotional investment. Every month that passes, every intimate moment shared, every promise of the future, all of this increases the cost of leaving. You've already invested so much that giving up now feels like a bigger waste than continuing to wait. It's the same logic as those who continue to lose money in a game because they've lost too much to stop. Moreover, he feeds his belief with well-timed crumbs of hope. When you're close to serious questioning, it increases emotional intensity. He talks more about your future, criticizes his wife more, shows more affection. These booster shots renew your faith that everything will work itself out, that you just need to be more patient. And the cycle starts again, always keeping you close enough not to walk away, but far enough away not to require real change. 4. The secret role you were asked to play. Without realizing it, you accepted to play a very specific character in his emotional economy. It's not just the mistress, it's something more complex. You've become the repository of everything he can't be in marriage. The spontaneity that the domestic routine killed, the passion that the years cooled down, the admiration that coexistence wore out. You carry all these functions without receiving the title or recognition. This role has immediate addictive benefits. You get the best version of him, the thoughtful man who plans dates, who texts passionately, who listens with interest. Compared to what many women get in official relationships, this feels like a prize. You feel chosen precisely because you have access to this premium version that the wife supposedly lost. But there is a hidden price in this dynamic. You can never be complete in his life. She doesn't appear in family photos, isn't mentioned to important friends, doesn't participate in real decisions. Its existence remains confined to moments of escape, never integrated into true life. And the longer this lasts, the more you internalize the message that you deserve only the pieces, never the whole. The role also requires you to always be light, understanding, without demands. After all, he already has problems at home. With you, it needs to be different, easy, pleasurable, so you swallow frustrations, avoid conflicts, keep the woman's performance uncomplicated. But this restraint creates an internal pressure, a weariness of never being able to be whole, with real defects and needs. It also has the function of validating the male ego. You prove to him that you are still desirable, that you can still conquer, that you are not old or uninteresting. The marriage may have become lukewarm, but the existence of you proves that it still has value in the effective market. You become the mirror that reflects the image he wants to have of himself. And the final pitfall of this role is that it was designed never to evolve. You remain eternally in the position of one who waits, of one who understands, of one who is content with the possible. Any attempt to change this script, to demand more, to demand promises, threatens the entire structure, because the role was created precisely to be comfortable for him, not liberating for you. 5. The difference between what he says and what he lives. Words are cheap when they don't have to be turned into actions. He talks about the future with you, about what it will be like when you are finally together for real, about shared plans and dreams. These conversations feel intimate and true because, at that moment, he really feels it. But feeling is not the same as doing. Notice what happens when these words would need to become concrete decisions. When it would be time to talk seriously with the wife, there is always a legitimate impediment. A child going through difficulties, a complicated financial issue, a health problem in the family. There is always a valid reason to postpone, and these reasons form an endless chain of justifications that never run out. His real life remains unchanged while the speeches change. He continues to attend family events, maintaining social appearances, fulfilling the rituals of marriage. Meanwhile, with you, the words get more and more elaborate, the promises more and more detailed. It is as if verbal investment compensates for the absence of practical investment. Also, pay attention to where he puts his resources: time, money, emotional energy. Most of it still goes to keep the family structure functioning. Vacations are with his wife, weekends are dedicated to his family, and large financial investments are considered the official nucleus. You get the breaks, the gaps, what's left over after the real priorities have been met. There's a simple formula for understanding this. A person's choices reveal their actual priorities, not their words. When someone really wants something, they find a way. When he doesn't want it that much, he finds an excuse. He has found a comfortable balance where he can have the emotional benefits of two relationships without having to give up either. And as long as you accept words as a substitute for actions, this balance will be maintained indefinitely. The distance between discourse and practice also serves as a thermometer of self-deception. The more elaborate the stories about the future, the fewer concrete movements in the present. It is as if words work to relieve the guilt of not acting, creating a sense of progress where there is only stagnation. And you, by participating in these conversations, validate the illusion that something is happening when, in reality, everything remains exactly as it always was. 6. The invisible price of sustaining fantasy. You may not realize it right away, but maintaining this dynamic takes a silent toll on your psyche. First, There is the cost of permanent availability without reciprocity. You organize your life around his possibilities, keep free times, refuse other invitations, are always waiting. Meanwhile, his life is structured independently of you. This asymmetry erodes their autonomy without making noise. There is also the wear and tear of living in hiding. Not being able to talk openly about the relationship, hiding from close friends, making excuses when he cancels at the last minute. This secret life creates an internal division. You have a public and a private version that you can't meet. Over time, this creates a sense of fragmentation, as if you can't be whole anywhere. Self-esteem suffers in subtle but profound ways. As much as he says you are special, the actions demonstrate that you are not enough of a priority for real change. That message creeps in slowly. You start to wonder if you really deserve better, if you're asking too much, if you should be more understanding. Doubt about one's own value sets in disguised as maturity. There is also the immense opportunity cost. As long as you invest emotional energy in this situation, you miss the chance to build something real with someone available. The months turn into years, and you remain in an effective limbo without being single or truly committed. Other possibilities go unnoticed because you're busy waiting for this one to come to fruition. The impact on your ability to trust is also significant. You know that he lies to his wife, that he keeps secrets, that he builds parallel realities. Even if he swears that with you it is different, a part of you questions. If he does this to her, what does he guarantee that he would not do to you? This latent doubt prevents a complete surrender. You can never fully relax in the relationship. Finally, there is the cost of time lost with your own life. While you wait for him to solve his, yours is paused. Dreams postponed, projects shelved, important decisions frozen until the situation is defined. But the situation is never completely defined, and you realize too late that you have spent years living in the waiting room of your own existence, waiting for a change that may never come. 7. When the lie becomes more real than the truth. There comes a point when the narrative you've built together gains more weight than the observable facts. The story that his marriage is just an appearance, that you are the true companion, that soon everything will be resolved. This narrative becomes your operational reality. Concrete facts that contradict it are treated as exceptions, temporary deviations, external obstacles. This inversion happens because the lie has been refined over time. Every accepted excuse, every unfulfilled promise you highlighted, every piece of evidence to the contrary you chose to ignore. All of this strengthened the alternative narrative. It's like building a house on sand. Each brick placed makes the structure look more solid, but the foundation remains non-existent. The danger of this stage is that you develop resistance to information that threatens the narrative. If a friend questions the situation, you defend her with arguments he provided. If you have doubts yourself, quickly search your memories for the moments that confirm the positive version. The mind becomes a machine for filtering out only what sustains the illusion. At that point, confronting the truth would require reconstructing the entire story you tell yourself. He would have to admit the years invested in a fantasy, recognize that the signs were always there, accept that he chose to believe because it was more comfortable than to face. This reconstruction seems more painful than continuing in the familiar lie, so you choose the second option over and over again. He also inhabits this alternate reality with you. It's not that he wakes up thinking about how to manipulate you, it's that he genuinely believes in the version of the story he tells. For him, the marriage really ended emotionally, even if it remains active practically. This twisted sincerity is what makes it all the more confusing, because you feel his emotional authenticity even when his actions contradict words. The lie becomes the truth when both tacitly agree not to question certain areas. There are questions you've learned not to ask, subjects that are automatically sidetracked, contradictions that go unnoticed because looking directly at them would destroy the fragile balance. This silent complicity keeps the bubble intact, protected from the external reality that could burst it. 8. The awakening. Recognizing the game before you lose yourself. The way out of this dynamic begins with a brutal moment of honesty. Looking at the situation without the lens of hope, without justifications, without the comforting narrative. See exactly what it is, not what it could be or what it promises it will be. It hurts because it means abandoning the version of the story where you're still the heroine who won his heart. The first step is to look at patterns, not isolated events. A cancellation may have a legitimate justification, but 10 in a row reveal a priority. A deferred promise may have a valid reason, but years of postponements show real intent. Stop analyzing each episode separately and start looking at the full picture they form. Also recognize your own participation in maintaining this system. You are not a passive victim. You have made active choices to accept, to hope, to believe. This does not mean guilt, it means responsibility. And responsibility is power, because what you choose to accept, you can choose to refuse. Understanding this transfers control back into your hands. Ask yourself honestly, if nothing changed, if in 5 years the situation was exactly the same, would you be able to continue? If the answer is no, then you already know that you are tolerating something unsustainable by betting on future change. But the future is built with present actions, and his present actions point to maintaining the current status, not to transformation. Awakening also requires you to rescue your own life narrative. You existed before him. You have desires and dreams that do not depend on this relationship. You have value regardless of whether you are chosen or not. Reconnecting with this version of yourself prior to waiting and adapting is key to regaining perspective on what you really want out of life. Finally, understand that leaving doesn't mean you were wrong or that time was wasted. It means that you have learned something essential about yourself, about your limits, about the kind of love you really want and deserve. Every experience, even painful ones, offers wisdom if you are willing to extract it. The question is not whether you should have entered this story. It is whether you will continue in it now that you fully understand what it is. And this choice, totally yours, defines not who you were, but who you are becoming.